Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of Pioneer with Poncelet with me, Kevin Poncelet, here on TCGplayer.com. This is Simic Stompy. I'm going to be taking you through a 5-match league with this deck, and we've got a good hand to start with here. We've got everything we need except for a mana dork. And by mana dork, I mean Elvish Mystic or Llanowar Elves. And we're going to keep this hand and dig for that card with Once Upon a Time for free for the great price of On the House. And we're going to find one. So we're playing 8. We're playing 4 Mystics, 4 Llanowar Elves. And it's fairly likely that we'll find one after the first 7 cards don't have one in the top 5 cards of our deck. It's not always going to happen, but it did happen here, and it was big time because now we get to play a turn 2 5-power creature, which is kind of the bread and butter of this deck. We just play a really beefy dude on turn 2. Kind of what we're trying to do every time, and this is one of those times where we're going to be able to do it, as long as they don't kill our elf here. And they're a blue deck, so they're probably not going to. So something we could do is lead with Ronus. That's a bit risky, though. We're just going to lead with Steel Leaf Champion because it's definitely going to be able to attack next turn. If we lead with Ronus and then they bounce our Steel Leaf or something, it's a little bit more risky. Yeah, I'm trying out Ronus in this build. It's actually the first time I'm trying Ronus in the Simic Stompy deck. I just wanted another 3-drop to ramp into on turn 2 with some upside, and Ronus certainly fits that bill. It also certainly is very bad in some matchups where people are going to have a lot of removal for your other creatures, and then your Ronus doesn't really attack very well. But for the most part, it's going to be pretty powerful. All right, we've got turn 3 Ronus holding up Stubborn Denial. Love it. This is the bread and butter of what this deck is trying to do. I'm glad you get to see it in the first match here. So we're playing beefy dudes and 1 mana negate. It's basically the name of the game here. Our opponent played a Paradise Druid. Not really sure what they're up to. This might be Jeskai Ascendancy. Yeah, they could be playing Jeskai Ascendancy combo here with Sylvan Awakening and Paradise Druids. But they are not going to have very many turns to figure this out while we sit back and smack with these beefy dudes. And that's also a fantastic draw. Getting in there for 10. They may chump the Ronus. No, they're just going to take all of it. And we're going to play a Galta for the low price of 2. For 2 mana on turn 4, we have resolved a 12/12 trample. Feels good. This is about the nuttiest draw you can have with this deck, though. So don't expect to have this in every one of your games, but this is kind of what it's trying to do. And with Once Upon a Time, 8 mana dorks, 10 3-drops that are very beefy. We can do it fairly often. But yeah, this is the epitome of what this deck is trying to do. So if they find a Supreme Verdict, we get got here. Although Ronus stays around. That's cool. I didn't really think about how Ronus actually gets around Supreme Verdict. I don't think our opponent is on a Supreme Verdict deck. I think they're playing Jeskai Ascendancy, and I think we're going to counter this Jeskai Ascendancy, and they're going to scoop. Yep. Veil of Summer. I'll counter your Veil of Summer too. Main deck Veil of Summer. Whoa. Wowzer. Main deck Veil of Summer. I've not seen that. That's a first. That is certainly a first for me. Fog. Weird. They're doing some stuff over there. Huh. Okay. No real reason to play our other elf here. No reason to attack into the fog. If we drew Questing Beast, we just won the game, but we didn't, so we just have to hope they can't go off now. Retraction Helix, all right. Our opponent is definitely on a Jeskai Ascendancy combo here. They're going hard into it with Retraction Helix, main deck Veil of Summer, and main deck Fog. It's the first I've seen of these things in a Jeskai Ascendancy deck. I do think this deck is one of those not fully fleshed out ones. Like, obviously the format's pretty new still. At the time of recording here, it's only 2 weeks old. It's just got some new bannings on Monday. We just lost Feldar Guardian, Nissa, Oath of Nissa, and Leyline of Abundance, and I think those bans were good. Just to jump right into ban talk here, I think the bans made sense, and I think it should have been Nykthos that went instead of Leyline of Abundance. Personally, we'll see with the results of the PTQ tomorrow. As of recording this, the Friday PTQ is tomorrow, but if that green devotion deck ends up winning again, or putting like 4 copies in the top 8 again or whatever, then we'll have our answer as to whether or not it was not good for the format. I think we want Scavenging Ooze here to make their dig through times a bit worse. But what we really want are these Reclamation Sages, because a lot of the time they're going to be tapping out or tapping low for Jeskai Ascendancy on turn 2 or 3, and we're going to want to just blow it up. So those are really important. Smuggler's Copter, not as good here. I think we can trim those. And I don't really want to bring the Scoozes in. They're kind of slow against Dig Through Time. They're fine, but we'll just run it like this. I don't want to slow myself down too much. And this hand's great. Very fast clock with some bounce for Jeskai Ascendancy to at least slow them down a bit. Brazen Borrower is the card that is newest in testing this deck out, for me at least. I was looking for a way to interact with my opponent for cheap, also not with a fight spell. I was trying out Thrash Threat and like 1 Stomping Ground in the deck so that I could cast the threat part of Thrash Threat. Thrash Threat is a 2-mana instant. Target creature you control deals its damage in its power, deals damage equal to its power to a planeswalker or a creature, which is pretty powerful, but it was 2 green mana, instant speed. Ooh, what a draw. Little free spell here. Gonna go ahead and take the Galta. Even though having the second blue source might have been nice there too. But Galta on turn 4 is probably lethal. So we have just a really fast clock this way. With Sirac, you actually get a hasty Galta, which is pretty awesome. So that's the plan here. Get that turn 2 5/5 down. But yeah, Brazen Borrower, it does the interaction that we need, and it also is a 3/1 flyer. It's a little bit hard to cast because our deck only plays 12 blue sources, but with Once Upon a Time, we're able to find that second blue source usually pretty easily. It's certainly not ideal to be trying to cast a 3-mana 3/1 flyer for blue, or double blue, I mean, but certainly doable. And mostly we're casting it for the petty theft side of the card. So here I would love to just cast Sirac and attack for 10, but I don't think that would be correct. I think we need to hold up Brazen Borrower and bounce the Jeskai Ascendancy, like in response to a spell next turn. Especially if they tap their Sylvan Caryatid. Yeah, I guess they'd still untap it. But yeah, we need to bounce the Jeskai Ascendancy. We could just be dead next turn. It's actually fairly likely that we're just dead next turn. So we can play an elf, or we can hold up Once Upon a Time. I think I'm just gonna play an elf. Although holding up Once Upon a Time would have allowed us to look for a blue source to actually cast Brazen Borrower, but I'd much rather cast our other things at the moment. There's also definitely a case to be made for upkeep bouncing Jeskai Ascendancy there. Commune with the gods. Yeah, we're going to bounce the Jeskai Ascendancy in response here. Maybe we're supposed to do it on upkeep. Veil of Summer. Ooh. Ow. Yeah. They may have drawn that Veil of Summer for turn. Veil of Summer, very good here for them. They're drawing a card, and now they're even digging deeper with Commune with the Gods. So kind of perfect for them here. I do wonder if maybe just the aggro line of turn 3 Sirac, turn 4 Galta was the correct line. Just like maybe hope they don't have it. Another Jeskai Ascendancy. Discarding Botanical Sanctum, okay. Fog. Huh. Interesting. I imagine they can't win the game this turn, but maybe they're just... Oh, actually, with 2 Jeskai Ascendancies, maybe they can win the game this turn. They have a Dig Through Time. Discarding the 3rd Jeskai Ascendancy. Radical Idea, okay. So they're generating a mana every time they cast a 1-mana spell. And they're breaking even on 2-mana spells. And they're filtering twice with each non-creature spell they're casting here. and they can draw an extra card off the Unbridled Growth. Alright, I mean, I'm just gonna F6 here, let them do their thing. So I guess we could die. I don't know if they're playing some sort of way to give their defender creatures not defender and also trample. And it's possible that they could deal 20 this turn. They could certainly cycle through most of their deck. And it looks like, yeah, they're generating a mana with each 1 mana spell, which they've drawn a few of here. Could potentially be dead. And they don't want to give me an untap step because I may have some sort of interaction for their ascendancies, like Reclamation Sage or something. Making a white mana now. I know they're playing Retraction Helix. That could bounce my board. Treasure Cruise is a pretty good one. Alright. I'm not 100% sure how they win from here. I mean, if they have Sylvan Awakening, and I assume that's in their deck, they could, but they're not making any green mana with their Sylvan Caryatid, so I'm not sure. But Treasure Cruise was pretty great, and second Treasure Cruise, pretty great. There's a reason that Treasure Cruise is banned in Modern and Legacy and restricted in Vintage. The card's pretty powerful. 1 mana, draw 3. It is effectively Ancestral Recall at the moment. Obviously has more restrictions than Ancestral Recall. But in the right deck, it's just Ancestral Recall. And it's hard to find those. If you want to pick up an Ancestral Recall these days, I'd say it's what, like minimum $2,000, $2,000 for that card. That's restricted in Vintage, a format that very few people play in paper. Unfortunately, Vintage I actually think is a pretty fun format. I've only played it a few times myself, but it gets a bad rap for being like a turn 0 format. And it's not so much that, like, you go to turn 5, turn 6, turn 8 sometimes in Vintage. It's not as degenerate as some people make it out to be. Obviously, it's very, very powerful things happening, but there's interaction to be had as well. So they're up to a 22-25 with their next spell here, which means, yeah, here we go. If they can give their creature trample and not defender, then we lose. I don't know if our opponent's saying like, hey, we're going to kill you with a thing. No, they're not. I'm fine to scoop to a win con. They just have to show me how they win the game once they have all this mana and all these cards. There are 3 cards in their deck. Oh, they probably have a Jace. Maybe that's their win con, is they just draw their deck. Gravitic Punch. That'll do it. All right, that'll definitely do it. Sweet. That's a cool win con. I did not expect that. All right. Cool. That was pretty cool. So maybe the Veil of Summer actually gave them the win there, and the fact that we didn't go for the Sirach into Galta was the mistake that we made. I'm not 100%, obviously. Scavenging Ooze is quite good at slowing down their Treasure Cruise draws. So I think we want the Scavenging Oozes, and I think I'm going to trim on... I mean, Ronus doesn't actually attack on its own. Giving our other creatures trample is a big deal, but I think because Ronus doesn't actually attack on its own if we don't have other things, I'm going to trim Ronus, and they're playing Fog, so I don't want to trim any Questing Beasts. But Yorvo is slightly smaller than our other 3 drops also. So I'm going to trim a Yorvo as well. And I mean, Scavenging Ooze is not on our plan A here. It might even be the case that we want to just stay as aggressive as possible and not even mess around with Scavenging Oozes in this matchup. We're going to keep this hand because we have a turn 2 5/5 and probably a pretty soon turn 3 or 4, I mean turn 4 Galta, hopefully, with the Stubborn Denial. So this is pretty much everything we want. We just need to find a blue land with Stubborn Denial. I mean with Once Upon a Time, and we should be doing pretty good here. That was impressive last game though. They won with 1 mana open and a Sylvan Caryatid on turn 4 through a Brazen Borrower with that Veil of Summer. They just drew, I'm sure they could have just drawn their whole deck, which is impressive. Whoa, we missed. Oh no. We just whiffed. Oof. We looked at the top 5 cards of our deck and none of them were lands. That's that could be really bad. But the good thing about none of those cards being lands is that the next card is slightly more likely to be a land. It's not though. Oh no. Let's find that land. Wow. There were no lands on the top 14, 15 cards of our deck there. That's pretty crazy. Or hardly any lands. All right. Well, it's not a great spot, but we did draw a Reclamation Sage, so we can interact with a Jeskai Ascendancy on our turn, which is very useful. We're going to cast an Elf and a Lovestruck Beast here. Since we have no blue mana to hold up anyway for Stubborn Denial, we're just going to do it like this. We're going quite slow compared to what we want to be doing, but we didn't really have a choice there. We just whiffed with the first Once Upon a Time on hitting a land. Luckily, the Elvish Mystics and Llanowar Elves do a fairly good impression. And we're going to be able to Rec Sage this first Jeskai Ascendancy, so we should still be okay here, hopefully. Can we Rec Sage and Galta? I think so. Yes, I think we can. That's awesome. All right, this is a really, really good turn 4, even though it started off kind of awkwardly. We're going to be able to Rec Sage and Galta this turn, which is pretty fantastic after that slightly weak start there. Can't really complain too much about how this turned out. And by not too much, I mean that was pretty much as good as it gets. We had a removal spell for the Jeskai Ascendancy plus tons of pressure. So they could have some fogs, and that could get them there. What did they put in their hand with the Commune? Looks like an Unbridled Growth. Yeah, it looks like they put Unbridled Growth in their hand. I wouldn't mind drawing a Scavenging Ooze here so that we could counter a Treasure Cruise, or just a blue source would be fine. They're going to fog on our upkeep here. Makes sense. Questing Beast obviously wins the game. That's not a Questing Beast, though. Might as well cast the Elf. I don't think they have any mass removal or anything. But they need to find another Jeskai Ascendancy or Treasure Cruise here to dig for one. I would have loved to have top decked a blue source there. Or a Questing Beast just wins the game, obviously. Or like a Once Upon a Time that finds a Questing Beast. Yeah, there's the Treasure Cruise. So we're gonna need to close out as soon as possible here. Oops. There's an opt. Another opt. I assume they're going to have at least another fog here. Yeah, they haven't scooped, so I'm assuming they have a fog. Oh no, they're just going to scoop. Okay, cool. So we got there against Jeskai Ascendancy. We were going to find a blue source in a couple turns, but that was match 1. Hey, welcome to round 2 here with Simic Stompy. We're going to keep this hand. It looks pretty good. We are 1-0 right now in the league. We just beat Jeskai Ascendancy with a pretty good draw. In game 3, we had Rex Sage into Galta on turn 4, which, yeah, pretty strong. This hand does exactly what we want to do with this deck, which is play a free spell on turn 1, filter our cards a little bit, maybe find an interaction spell like a Brazen Borrower or a Galta, and then just go 1, 2, 3, Galta. 1, 2, 3, Galta. Game. It's basically the name of the game here. And we do it fairly consistently with Once Upon a Time and 8 Mana Dorks. There's another Mana Dork, speaking of. So let's land a Galta. Just close the game right out. Oh no, Brazen Borrower is fine too. Happy with that. Can actually just cast a turn 2 3-1 haste or 3-1 flash flyer. That's definitely not what we're gonna do. We're gonna lead with the 5/5, but it is an option when we get 2 blue sources and lead with a mystic or an elf of any sort. Yeah, it looks like we're playing against Blue-Red Phoenix here because they led with a Spire Bluff Canal and an opt. So very happy to have this Brazen Borrower as interaction for Thing in the Ice itself. Is it Charm the Duder? Alright, just trying to slow us down a bit. Gonna pay 2 life for this Breeding Pool. And just play 2 more elves. So next turn we can Heart's Desire with Lovestruck Beast and also cast Sirach, attacking with Sirach. Oh, well, not now that they shocked our elf there. But we can certainly do this. And then cast the Lovestruck Beast. Lovestruck Beast, a lot better than I thought it was. When I first saw this card, I was like, yeah, it's a 3 mana 5/5, but it has a pretty big downside. But when you put 8 1/1 Mana Dorks in your deck, which are just great with it anyway because they cast it on turn 2, all of a sudden, this dude is just kind of awesome. He's almost always going to be able to attack like 99% of the time. There have been very few occasions where my opponent had like Flame Sweep where they could actually clear all of my 1/1s, and otherwise like that guy always attacks, so it's been pretty strong. Yes, I suppose we're just gonna cast Sirach here, attack for 2. Our opponent's stuck on 2 lands over there. It's gonna be fairly difficult for them to get the Arclight Phoenix into play, and all our creatures are going to be haste going forward, and we have some interaction with Brazen Borrower. I mean, they know about the Brazen Borrower, doesn't really matter. Still bounces their Thing in the Ice very well. Another Lightning Axe. All right, another Phoenix in the yard. Well, they're interacting very well here, but they're missing land drops, so that's good for us as well. Questing Beast plays. They need some more interaction still. The downside to Brazen Borrower like the downside compared to something like Disperse or some other bounce spell like Unsummon is that Brazen Borrower only targets your opponent's non-land permanents. So that I did run into that where I wanted to bounce my own thing in response to my opponent's removal spell or something, and you can't do that with Brazen Borrower, which is certainly a downside compared to some other effects of the same pedigree. But Brazen Borrower just having the extra mode of being a 3/1 flash flyer is pretty fantastic. So yeah, we're happy to have Brazen Borrower in the deck. So I'd like to actually bounce and cast Brazen Borrower next turn. So I'm actually not going to attack with this Elvish Mystic, because we want to bounce a Phoenix and then cast Brazen Borrower if they are able to get those Phoenixes into play, which is pretty likely here. They just drew 3 cards with Treasure Cruise. And we have lethal anyway. If they find another Treasure Cruise, we're probably in trouble. Hashep Oasis would be really good. No, they didn't find it. All right, cool. We did draw pretty well there. Our opener was fantastic, and they had tons of interaction, but they just didn't have any proactiveness of their own. So they were just on the back foot the whole time, just trying to survive through all our 5/5s. And they almost turned the corner with Treasure Cruise. That's kind of what their deck is able to do against us, is they can just remove all our threats for the first few turns and then turn the corner with some Phoenixes that come into play for free and flipping a thing in the ice, that sort of thing. So in this matchup, I don't think Sleep is what we need, but Scavenging Ooze is certainly what we want. All right, so Scavenging Ooze is coming in, and fantastic against the Arclight Phoenixes, fantastic at slowing down their Treasure Cruises / just not allowing them to Treasure Cruise ever. And I don't love Smuggler's Copter in this matchup. It trades with Arclight Phoenix, so it's like not at its best. But it is pretty good against Thing in the Ice. So it's kind of close. Like if they bounce our board, we can still attack with Smuggler's Copter on the next turn. But generally, if they bounce our board, we're in big trouble. So I think I'm going to dump the Copters for the Scoozes. It's a pretty easy swap, like 3 2-drops for 3 2-drops. And I actually really like Ronus in this matchup because it's indestructible. They actually can't interact with Ronus outside of bouncing it with Thing in the Ice. So I really like that card against them. Also, Smuggler's Copter, pretty laughable in the face of Crackling Drake, which is a big deal. They're generally playing 2 Crackling Drakes in their 75. So let's try this. Getting ready for game 2 here. All right, we've got a turn 2 3-drop, and we've also got a Scooz and a Galta. Kind of everything we want. We're going to keep that and not even think about it very much. Throw out that elf. They could very well have an interaction spell for our elf here. Shock. Well, I guess generally people are playing Wild Slash instead of Shock in this format, but some people play both, play the full 8. There's also Fiery Impulse, but usually this Phoenix deck is not playing Fiery Impulse. Because Fiery Impulse doesn't deal damage to players, only creatures. Thing in the ice, got it. It is actually impossible for them to flip Thing in the Ice next turn because in Pioneer, it's not like Modern. There's no Manamorphose. There are no free spells other than Once Upon a Time, really, in Pioneer. That might not be true, but that's the only one I can think of at the moment. And it's definitely the only free spell that... or it's not. They definitely don't have any free spells in their deck. So we're able to just play this Yorvo and not worry about that Thing in the Ice flipping over next turn. And then if we draw a land, we're able to play Scavenging Ooze and also bounce their Thing in the Ice, which would be pretty grand. What they are able to do here on turn 3 is put an Arclight Phoenix or 2 into play, depending on their draw. And that would be pretty good. Oh, they're playing Brazen Borrower. All right. I like it. I like it. Ooh. So next turn they very well could flip Thing in the Ice, so we kind of have to hold up Brazen Borrower here, which is definitely a bummer because we did not draw the land, so we're kind of in a rough spot here. Yeah, if we play one of the 3-drops and they just flip the Thing in the Ice, which on our end step they could cast an Opt, on their turn they cast 2 more spells, very likely that they can do that. We just lose the game kind of on the spot. So kind of have to just pass the turn here, although the tempo loss is enormous. And I feel very far behind in this game. Regardless of whether or not they're going to flip it, we're going to try and bounce it on their end step. They're not going to. So the downside here is they could just have Is it Charm countering our Petty Theft because we missed our land drop. Mystical Dispute. That also works. Yeah. All right. Yep. All right, we found our land drop at least. But things are very bad. I suppose the best play is probably Scavenging Ooze, slow down their Treasure Cruise ammunition there. Another Mystical Dispute? No, they're just going to cast Brazen Borrower. Okay. Interesting. That means they don't think that they're going to flip the Thing in the Ice next turn. That's good for us. Yeah, that's good for us. I should have probably cast Scavenging Ooze with the Llanowar Elves and the Forest, though, just so that we can hold up double Stubborn Denial. So I regret the way we tapped there. Yeah, we're going to take 3. They're content to play Control here and just not flip the Thing in the Ice because if they don't flip it, they can just threaten it whenever. It looks like they're going to play Crackling Drake. Okay. Gonna play Yorvo. We're taking a lot in the air here. And yeah, I'm feeling like we're very, very, very unlikely to win this game here. Thing in the Ice threatening is just too much. Plus them cracking in for 5 a turn. It's gonna be a bit too much to handle. They just don't really have to cast anything, and we're kind of dead. Alright, looks like they're a bit flooded with creatures and lands. So maybe they weren't able to flip the Thing in the Ice, but the threat of it flipping was so much that we couldn't play our creature into it. Maybe we were wrong not to. Clearly at this point, I wish that we had. This thing could close the game out. This thing costs 4 right now. So we can hold up a Stubborn Denial if we pay 2 life. Yeah, I guess I'll cast this first. We could have cast Heart's Desire as well, but if they're going to flip Thing in the Ice, I'd rather wait. Although if they flip Thing in the Ice, we just lose on the spot next turn. Actually, no, we're at 9, so I guess not technically. So Yorvo got 2+1/+1 counters there because of... I don't know why that was open. Got 2+1/+1 counters there because of the Ghalta being bigger than it, and also the Ghalta being a green creature that came into play. Yeah, they're thinking here, which is good for us. That means they probably can't flip the Thing in the Ice. So they must have just flooded out. All right, they're coming in with the Crackling Drake and the Brazen Borrower. We're going to 4. But maybe they do have a way to flip their Thing in the Ice. They're just... All right, no haste creature here, so we don't have a way to win the game. Nor do we have any interaction for their flyers currently. So we're just going to swing out and... So we have... Yeah, they kind of have to block Yorvo there and Ghalta there. And then they only take 12 total. Wow, close game. We could have pumped the Yorvo a bit by casting some green creatures, but it doesn't actually change what's happening here. So yeah, I'm just going to pass the turn, make them sweat it a little bit. Surprising that they didn't have a way to flip that first Thing in the Ice, and certainly we played scared of the Thing in the Ice and got punished. It looks like had we just cast the Yorvo again on that next turn rather than holding up Brazen Borrower, that we would have had a very good chance of winning this game. I do think it was probably the correct line that we took, But maybe because our tempo was so bad taking that line, maybe it wasn't the correct line. You know, maybe because we were already so far behind after they bounced our Yorvo with their Brazen Borrower, and we didn't hit our land drop to be able to cast the Scavenging Ooze and hold up Brazen Borrower on their Thing in the Ice. It was just time to continue to commit Yorvo to the board while hoping that they just don't have 2 more spells to flip their Thing in the Ice. And it looks like they never found the 2 more spells to flip the Thing in the Ice. So it looks like that would have worked out. And maybe like that's just the plan at that point in the game. But it was very hard for me to justify that at that time. And we were just hoping that bouncing the Thing in the Ice on their end step and then starting to redeploy our threats were going to be the best way to do it. And yeah, I think it's very likely they're going to try to flip their Thing in the Ice on the next turn there if they can. And if they can, they're going to go for it, and then we're going to bounce it in response to the last counter coming off, especially if they tapped out to get that last counter off. And that's going to mess with them pretty good, especially if they're casting like spells that they might not have necessarily wanted to cast. I know sometimes opponents will cast Lightning Axe targeting their Thing in the Ice just to flip it, which would have been bold for our opponent at that point in the game, but sometimes they'll do that. And if they waste like a Lightning Axe to flip their Thing in the Ice, it could have been a really good turn for us to bounce their Thing in the Ice. So I kind of still stand by what we did. It just didn't end up working out. I think we're just going to run it back, though. Stubborn Denial still pretty good. Brazen Borrower, like, they brought in Mystical Dispute, which is certainly bad for our Stubborn Denials and our Brazen Borrowers, but it's not like we can really board them out. We need to counter Treasure Cruise, and we need to bounce Thing in the Ice, so it's kind of where we're at. Veil of Summer does work against Mystical Dispute as well, but we're not bringing in Veil of Summer in this matchup. It's fine against Izzet Charm and Mystical Dispute, but I just don't really think it's worth it. All right, we've got turn 2, 3-drop, turn 3, 4-drop, and then turn 5, turn 4, get your graveyard. So we're in really good shape here. We don't have any interaction for Thing in the Ice itself, but it's a great hand. Definitely not going to mulligan it. And also Thing in the Ice can't block either of these until it flips over, at which point we don't have either of these in play. But yeah, this hand's fantastic. Barring them having multiple Lightning Axes and or a fast flipped Thing in the Ice. But yeah, our opponent's hand last game was much weaker than it seemed, and it was unfortunate that we weren't able to capitalize. Excuse me. Yeah, turn 2, 3 mana 5 power creature. That's what we're doing. Get out there, Steel Leaf, show them what for. They had the Lightning Axe, discarding the Phoenix. Pretty ideal for them there. Pretty ideal. They had no Lightning Axes last game, which is huge for us. They could very well flip their Phoenix next turn. Or not flip it, but put it into play. So Scavenging Ooze wouldn't be a terrible move here. I think I do want to play the Scavenging Ooze first. Not going to activate it immediately. It doesn't really matter when we do it. Unless they have like double shock. I'm going to respond to this because they're about to draw 2 cards. So I'm going to get that Phoenix. And while they only have 1 land in play, it's actually impossible for them to kill our Scavenging Ooze there. I mean, with shocks at least. They could have killed it with a lightning axe at any point. Alright, Fiery Temper. What's your target? No, they haven't chosen a target yet. If they target Scavenging Ooze, we can just eat the Steel Leaf. They're going to target the Llanowar Elves. Alright. Deal. I'm just going to eat an elf here just to get more damage in. None of those cards are that important in their graveyard. They are important for Treasure Cruise. But if they're tapping out next turn for Treasure Cruise, we're fine with that. And we're attacking for 8. They're at 18. So things are looking pretty good. Also, getting Scavenging Ooze up to a 4/4 is really important because it gets it out of range of Fiery Temper and Arclight Phoenix. So this is interesting. Because we just drew the Stubborn Denial, I'm tempted to not play Questing Beast right now. Tempted. We could have a 5/5 Scavenging Ooze that also can eat up to 3 more cards from their graveyard, which makes their Treasure Cruises really bad. 5/5 isn't quite big enough to get around Lightning Axe, so they could still find a Lightning Axe and take down our Ooze next turn. Although, no, they can't because we have Stubborn Denial. Yeah, actually, I think because we have Stubborn Denial and Ooze, I'm not going to play the Questing Beast. I'm just going to attack for 5 here. Because they only have 1 spell. Well, I guess Brazen Borrower as well. But Brazen Borrower and Lightning Axe are their only ways to interact with the 5/5 Scavenging Ooze. And we can just counter that and just keep getting in for 5. And then surprise get them with Questing Beast later. Especially since next turn we can Questing Beast and hold up Stubborn Denial. Yeah, I like this better. Thing in the Ice. Gonna make sure they can't Treasure Cruise anytime soon. And now we're gonna play Questy B. Tag for 9. It is possible that they flip their Thing in the Ice next turn. It's also possible we're supposed to counter this Opt, but I certainly don't want to. Another Thing in the Ice. All right. That puts them dead to the Questing Beast attacking. And they're just going to scoop. Okay. Cool. we got there. That's 2-0 here with our Simic Stompy deck. Pretty happy with that. All right. Hello and welcome to round 3. This is Simic Stompy. We are 2-0 at the moment. We beat Blue Red Phoenix and Jeskai Ascendancy combo. This hand is not good enough. We're not going to keep it. We do have a turn 1 play, a turn 3 play, and technically a turn 4-ish play depending on what we draw, but it's too slow. It's too many lands. We're going to mulligan. Oops. Again, this is pretty slow. We're on the draw, so we might find the elf on the first 2 turns. If we find the elf on the first 2 turns, we could be okay here. The soft stubborn denial is sometimes really good in the first couple of turns. So I'm tempted to keep this one. It's certainly slow, but if that soft stub does some work on turn 2, countering their 3-drop, and then our turn 3 play and turn 4 play are these, I think I'm just going to keep this. It's a powerful hand, but it is slow, and we're going to really hope that this soft stub, as I call it, when you don't have ferocious, it's just a mana tithe, and we're gonna keep it. It's just a daze for non-creature spells, and I'm gonna bottom the breeding pool. Ooh, this might be the mirror match. This might be the mirror match, and they have an elf and we don't, so this could be a rout. Yeah, it looks like the mirror match, Hashtag Oasis. It absolutely is the mirror match. That's cool. Wow, I didn't think this deck was that popular, but yeah, that is pretty strong. So we found a Once Upon a Time. We haven't cast a spell yet, so that's great. We get to Once Upon a Time for free here. And we've found a Llanowar Elves. In the mirror, we certainly, we want elves, but at this point, maybe not. So I think I just want to take the Steel Leaf number 2. And I'm just going to play the Smuggler's Copter. They're unlikely to cast a non-creature spell next turn. They don't have that many in their deck, and most of them are Stubborn Denial. So, Petty Theft. Out of them, they might be on the new tech with Brazen Borrower as well. They also could be on the Oko train here. Some people that play this deck play Oko, and I think Oko is a very good card. I'll talk about that more during the deck tech after the league. But Oko is a very good card if you have access to a lot of cash to spend on Oko. I would definitely recommend messing around with him in this deck. But yeah, here we've got just a pretty easy Steel Leaf champion and a passing of the turn. Smuggler's Copter is not very good in this matchup because it doesn't block very well, and it's not like we're attacking with it into these Lovestruck beasts. Ooh, okay. Our opponent's draw was very good. They had to turn 4 Gaul to draw, and our draw was pretty weak. So we certainly, we kept a weak 6 that we were hoping soft stubborn denial was going to be good, and it certainly was not. So we're going to go to game 2 here. Yeah, losing the die roll in this matchup is also pretty bad. In the mirror. So we definitely want sleep. This is absolutely the matchup for sleep. And I don't really like Smuggler's Copter, like I was saying. So that's a pretty easy swap. Stubborn Denial for their sleeps is kind of important. Reclamation Sage for their Heart of Kirin's and or Smuggler's Copters could be kind of good. Yeah, Stubborn Denial, obviously not at its best, but if they are playing Oko and if they are playing Sleep, then we certainly want the Stubborn Denials. So I'm just going to keep them in. And people are playing different things in this build. It's a pretty new archetype. At least pretty new to like being somewhat popular at the moment. This is at the time of this recording, it's not a super popular deck. But we're going to mulligan this hand looking for a better one. We're going to keep this one because it's great. We're going to bottom... Honestly, I think we're going to bottom the Once Upon a Time. So Once Upon a Time is fantastic in your opener. It gets you whatever you need. I guess we could just drop Yavimaya Coast and like look for a Botanical Sanctum instead. But if we whiff on our land, then we're in really bad shape. So I'm just going to keep this without the Once Upon a Time because we have everything we need. It's kind of interesting to get rid of a free spell that digs us 5 cards deep for whatever we want. But it is risky because if we bottom the elf and don't find an elf, that's really bad. Can't do that. We only look 5 cards deep. It's not like it just gets anything you want. If Once Upon a Time was just a tutor, then obviously we'd never bottom Once Upon a Time. But it's not. So we are we're not going to take the risk and just keep all the cards that do things that we want. Whoever resolves Galta first is generally going to have a huge advantage in the mirror here. I think because Lovestruck Beast can be a 4-drop as well, we're gonna cast Steel Leaf first. Because Lovestruck Beast, you can cast the 1/1 and cast the 5/5 all in one turn on turn 3. With an elf, they're going to do the exact same thing as us. Let's see if they have a Galta. We're going to attack. Yeah, I think they have a Galta as well. If they didn't have a Galta, they may have blocked. But ours is going to come down next turn. Theirs is probably also going to come down next turn. So this is going to be an interesting game here. Ronus, yeah. Gilded Goose. So they're certainly on the Oko plan over there. We can no longer attack with our non-Galta creatures, though, into the Ronus, which is a pretty big downside. But we're super live to draw Sleep. Casting Llanowar Elf doesn't really change anything here. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. We just have to hope that they don't have a Galta, and we just want to draw Sleep and Brazen Borrower at this point. They have their own Galta, of course. So we're both fully powered here. It's just first one to draw a Brazen Borrower or a Sleep. Hey. So Brazen Borrower. Bounces Galta. We get in for a bunch. And then we have a 3/1 flyer on their end step. They can block it with Gilded Goose. They can also gain life with the food. They can also make another food with Gilded Goose. Pretty sure we still have to just bounce their Galta here. Although they can eat, or they can trade with our Galta with their Steel Leaf champion at the moment, which is pretty bad for us. Maybe we just attack and see how it goes first. Yeah, I think we're going to attack here. See how they block. If they block with both Ronus and Steel Leaf and are planning on trading Steel Leaf, oh, they're just going to block with Ronus. Okay. Deal. What, he has Death Touch? Oh, goodness. I forgot that Ronus had Death Touch. That's okay. They're at 5. We could still pull this one out. Whoa, yeah, I forgot Ronus had Death Touch. But he's a snake. He should have Death Touch. I forgot completely. That's rough. Forgot he had Death Touch. So they're tapped out here, so it might be the right moment, but we're just going to hope they don't have Stubborn Denial as their last card. They're going to pump their Galta. Great. If they have the Stubborn Denial, we lose, obviously. Oops. Wait. Yeah, we still have 3. Yeah, that works. So we're going to Petty Theft that. If they have the Stubborn Denial, game over. Thanks for playing. But they didn't have it. All right. So now we're only taking 5. And we're attacking for a lot. They have another... Oh, they're going to recast Galta. They don't have another Galta. They're just recasting it. Right. That makes total sense. Forgot that Galta was a 2-mana creature. We're playing Galta. We should know these things. So they're going to block Steel Leaf with Galta, Lovestruck Beast with Gilded... or Brazen Bar with Gilded Goose, Lovestruck Beast with Steel Leaf, and then swim back for lethal. It looks like we don't have it here. Had we cast Llanowar Elves at some point, would we have won? It looks like maybe not casting the Llanowar Elves on that turn where we could have actually lost us this game. I think it did, actually. I think we're 1 point short. Yeah, we're 1 point short. Wow. So, always cast your Llanowar Elves, because I didn't think it was going to be useful to cast the Llanowar Elf on that turn, but now we're about to lose the game because we're 1 point short. So that's a bummer. But everybody get in there. Maybe they block wrong. That's our only respite here. Our only chance is they block wrong, but there's no reason they would. Oh, no, we wouldn't have killed them anyway. That's right. They could block the Lovestruck Beast with the Gilded Goose, and they would have been at 2 life still, even if the Llanowar Elves was in play. So we were just dead here either way. Got in the mirror match. Our hand was just as good as our opponents in game 2, but they had a Ronus, which was quite good. And I attacked into it with the Galta, not remembering that it had Death Touch. And we got there. Did not remember the Death Touch on Ronus, but also like attacking and getting them down low was maybe our best bet, and just trying to get them with the Brazen Borrower. The fact that they had a flying blocker was difficult. The fact that they gained 3 life off the food they got from their flying blocker was difficult. And game 1, we just got run over because they had one of the good draws, and we did not. Yeah, they had 2 really good draws in a row. All right. Hey, welcome to round 4 with Simic Stompy. We're playing for the 3-1 at the moment. We are 2-1. Just lost the mirror match to slightly better draws from our opponent, and Ronus the Indomitable. That was a tough one. Also forgot that Ronus had Death Touch. It happens. We're gonna keep this and hope for a 3-drop to cast with this Once Upon a Time. So yeah, the name of the game with this deck, like I've been saying, turn 2 3-drop, turn 1 elf, turn 2 3-drop. We're a little bit flooded with lands and more elves, but this Once Upon a Time should hit us a 3-drop. It did not. All right, we're playing 10 3-drops. It was pretty unlikely that we missed on one, but I suppose we'll just take Brazen Borrower here, since Galta's not coming out for a while. Although I could definitely see someone wanting to take Galta there and just hoping for some beefy dudes on the top. Another elf. All right. I think we're just going to cast a couple elves here. We could have just cast a 3-1 flyer on turn 2, but I don't think that's a winning line. I think we want to use our interaction as interaction. We don't know what our opponent's up to yet. There's some sort of black-green deck. Looks like maybe Hardened Scales, but it could be anything with Llanowar Wastes and Overgrown Tomb here. Collective Brutality. Discarding Mana Confluence. Was there other mode to look at our hand and take a thing out? Okay. We drew a land. So things are not great here. This deck is playing 21 lands and 8 mana dorks, so that's almost half of the deck is basically lands. So it does happen that you draw a few too many of mana sources, and you kind of get stuck in this type of position. Grizzly Salvage. Interesting. You got it. Gifted Aetherborn, Deathrite Shaman. Okay. So this is Soul Flayer, it looks like, with main deck Collective Brutality. I played Soul Flayer a bit myself and have not played main deck Collective Brutality and Soul Flayer, but I don't hate it. It's interaction for small creatures and also interaction against the non-creature decks. So it seems great, really. I'm into it. I kind of want to bounce their Deathrite Shaman, but I also just want to get this 3-power flyer into play. Having bounce for their Soul Flayer is also going to be really important, but now their Soul Flayer is certainly going to have hexproof, so yeah, we're just going to cast Brazen Borrower here and hope for like a Questing Beast or a Sirach or something along those lines. Wow. This is not going well for us at all. This whole not drawing lands thing is not going well. We are only drawing lands. So hopefully we top deck a Sirach next turn or something along those lines, and our opponent just doesn't do anything powerful. We did get in for 7. They're at 8 life, but they have a Deathrite Shaman in play, which is going to be able to gain them a bunch of life, deal us a bunch of damage, make them more mana. Looks like they have a Soul Flayer as well. Actually didn't look to see what they took with Collective Brutality. Hold on. They chose Deathrite Shaman, right? Wait. Oh, they put Castle Lochthwain into their hand. Okay. And they're using all 3 modes. Okay. Oh no, they're just using... Now they are using all 3 modes. Because they wanted to get Questing Beast into the yards for their Soul Flare here, because it's going to have haste now. And lifelink. And everything nice. And we're super dead. And we're going to go to game 2. Yeah. So, yeah, we just drew really poorly that game. Our Once Upon a Time missed. And yeah, we just didn't find any beefy things in the top like 15, 20 cards of our deck there. So that's unfortunate. But we are playing a lot of mana sources, and sometimes that's just going to be what it is. Sleep is good. I don't know if it's great, but it's definitely good. Scavenging is very good. So we certainly want that. It looks like Veil of Summer is going to be pretty strong as well for their collective brutalities and the like. I actually really like collective brutality. I wasn't thinking about like how you can discard your extra creatures with keywords, creatures with keywords for Soul Flare. You can discard those to your collective brutality and then cast Soul Flare, getting all those keywords of the creatures you discarded. So it seems like kind of a perfect marriage there. You can also put things in your yard to use as fuel for Deathrite Shaman, which is a little less interesting, but yeah, I think we're going to bring in the 3 Scoozes, the 2 Veil of Summers, and we're going to trim... I don't think Copter's at its best in this matchup. Copter is certainly nice to push through damage against decks that are trying to wipe your board, or decks that have Planeswalkers, or decks that have a lot of ground blockers, which they actually are going to have a decent amount of ground blockers, but they also play flyers to make their Soul Flare flying. I've seen Rankle in these lists. I've seen a lot of Zatalpa in these lists, Chromanticore, different things like that. It looks like they're on more of a black-green build with maybe no Chromanticore and maybe no Zatalpa, but generally they play Zatalpa no matter what, because that just has so many keywords. If you're unfamiliar, it's like an 8-mana dinosaur with like flying, double strike, trample, haste, or no, it doesn't have haste. Flying, double strike, trample, and vigilance, something like that. It has so many keywords. So I'm going to take out the Copters, and we're going to take out... Ronus actually seems really good against their Questing Beasts. I think we can trim a Yorvo and maybe 1 Stubborn Denial. Maybe something like that. So we're bringing in Veil of Summers. I don't want to make our deck too much less threat dense, and I want to just take out other instants for bringing in more instants, like more interaction for their spells. You want to keep the ratio somewhat similar if you can. This hand is very good if we find an elf, and otherwise it's still fine, so we're going to keep it. If we find just a land instead of an elf, it's still pretty good, and free spells are great, so we're going to cast Once Upon a Time, hopefully finding an elf. Yeah, we did find an elf, and I do prefer the elf to the land here, so let's just grab that. Play the elf, pass the turn. And our opponent plays a Blooming Marsh and passes. We are going to play this untapped, play a Scavenging Ooze, and pass. Now we have interaction for if they have graveyard stuff. We have up to, if we draw a land next turn, we have 4 mana. I really hope they cast a Collective Brutality here, though. That would be amazing. Looks like they are, because it looks like they're discarding to it. So we are going to blow them out with this Veil of Summer. Yep. Oops. So, yeah. The Collective Brutality doesn't do anything. We drew a card. It was a land. Everything's great. I think we're just going to play Sirac here and just twist the knife since we're ahead. Give Sirac haste because we have exactly 8 power in play. Attack for 7. And then we're going to have a Hasty Galta next turn, which is just, it's just chef's kiss, you know what I mean? Hasty Galta on turn 4, it's just what you want. It's just what you need. Although they could have something powerful here. They have 1 turn to figure this out. They do have another Collective Brutality. So it's going to be hard to Galta, since Galta still costs 6 now. So it's probably just going to be a Questing Beast turn. Sadly. We took the aggressive line, casting the Sirac, and they had another piece of interaction, which obviously hurts here. So this guy costs 6, we only have 5. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. So we're going to play an Elf and a Questing Beast. Just to make sure we can cast Galta next turn. And we can actually give this Elf haste, which is cool. We get in for an extra point of damage. And they go to 3. So they have a haste creature in their yard with Vigilance and Death Touch, but they're just going to scoop it up because our advantage is a little too severe at the moment. So we're back. It would seem that our opponent is on a lot of Collective Brutalities in their main deck. It looks like maybe even 4, which I don't hate. I think Soulflare could do a lot worse than Collective Brutality in the main deck. But we're just going to run back what we did last time, which was bring in the Scoozes and the 2 Veil of Summers and cut a Stubborn Denial Yorvo and the 3 Smuggler's Copters. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yorvo is fine, and maybe we could trim another Stubborn Denial for another Veil of Summer, because they're sort of doing a similar thing. But I like being able to maybe soft stub a Grizzly Salvage on the draw here. That could be a really big deal. If we like miss on an Elf and we just keep a soft stub hand. We have an Elf and we have a a turn 2 3-drop and then a Galta. We're just going to keep this. It's just our bread and butter hand. It doesn't have interaction for what they're doing. So if they have a really good hand, we may just get got. But we're on the draw. We could draw some interaction. And sometimes like our interaction doesn't even work against them because the Scavenging Ooze is too slow, or the Brazen Borrower doesn't work because their Soulflare is hexproof. So I think this hand is very good against like their typical draw of like not crazy Soulflare stuff, which they may board into just like basically a straight up black-green rock deck. In which case, this hand's fine. We have another Elf, that's great. Sort of want to play the Breeding Pool untapped. But I just love this Onslaught Forest too much to let it go. And yeah, they might kill our Elf, in which case we'll play the Breeding Pool tap next turn and play the Elvish Mystic. Actually, no, we won't. We'll probably cast Heart's Desire and Elvish Mystic, which is another upside to Lovestruck Beast. When they kill your Elf, you can still cast the Heart's Desire token on turn 2. So you still have a play, even if it's not a 5/5. Also gives your Lovestruck Beast a 1/1 in play so that it can attack. This is probably a Collective Brutality, since they've seemed to have infinite Collective Brutalities. No, all right. It's going to be Gather the Pack here for our opponent. And they hit Rankle, Questing Beast, Caryatid, and Deathrite Shaman, and they took the Questing Beast into their hand. I'll pop that out and just keep that in mind that they took the Questing Beast. So they are playing Rankle. The version I was playing the other day was also playing Rankle. I like it. I did cut the Deathrite Shamans. They were often the worst card in the deck, but obviously a powerful effect in certain matchups. I don't think this is one of those matchups, so I'm surprised that they left those in post-board, but I don't know. Maybe they really value being able to gain some life or just having a one mana spell. Which one do we lead with here? They are unlikely to Questing Beast just yet. Gonna play the Breeding Pool untapped, and I think I'm gonna go with Steel Leaf because next turn we can Harsh Desire and Lovestruck Beast. This has happened earlier in this league. You might have already heard me talk about it. But yeah, the fact that Lovestruck Beast can be like a full-on 4-drop with like 2 bodies, a 1/1 and a 5/5, is pretty great. And does make you want to wait with that one, especially since Steel Leaf has some evasion as well. And the only downside is leading with Steel Leaf into, say, like a Grasp of Darkness here, or if you're playing against a red deck, Mizium Mortars, Lava Coil, Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Those are all cards that deal 4 damage or do -4/-4 with Grasp of Darkness. And Steel Leaf is certainly much worse than Lovestruck Beast in the face of those. But otherwise very powerful. So yeah, they didn't board out any of their Deathrites, it looks like. Soulflare. Alright. He's got Flying, Hexproof, and Haste. Solid. Solid. They have the turn 3 Soulflare. Next turn we've got Lovestruck Beast, Elvish Mystic, and then the turn after we have Galta. We're going to have to just try and race them here, though. Which is going to be difficult with that Questing Beast in their hand. And Deathrite is going to be able to do 2 damage to us, or make us lose 2 life, that is, by exiling that Collective Brutality at some point. And any creatures that die are going to turn into 2 life for them as well. So I was talking bad about that Deathrite Shaman, but it might be pretty good here. Might be pretty good. The turn 3 Soulflare with Haste and Flying and Hexproof is obviously pretty powerful turn for our opponent. And one of their better draws for sure. That's generally what you want to be doing is turn 3 Soulflare with the Soulflare deck. And you want it to have as many keywords as you can get on there. And in this case, quite a few for our opponent. Yeah, we're going to cast an Elf. And the Lovestruck Beast. We're going to cast Elvish Mystic. Because they are a black deck, they could be playing... what's the name of that card? Legion's End. Legion's End. And if that's the case, we'd lose both of our Llanowar Elves to it. It's very unlikely that they're playing Legion's End. It's also very unlikely that they'd want to cast Legion's End and not Questing Beast next turn. But just in case these are the things that are happening, we're gonna play it like this. So we had 4 mana that turn, and Galta was a 6-drop. So yeah, we definitely didn't have enough mana to cast Galta. Just second guess myself for a second there. But nope, couldn't have cast Galta, and we're gonna just hope our opponent doesn't have a way to race the Galta. Being on the draw against turn 2 Soulflare with Flying, Haste, and Hexproof, or turn 3, that is. It's difficult. We're going to have our work cut out for us here, even with this Galta on turn 4. We had a very good draw here with turn 2 Steel Leaf, turn 3 Lovestruck Beast, Elvish Mystic. We have very beefy dudes in play. We have a very fast clock, but our opponent may have a faster one than us. So we're just going to hope for the best here. Gifted Aetherborn, that plays. It trades with Lovestruck Beast pretty well. We don't have to attack with Lovestruck Beast next turn, and that prevents them from gaining some life. I wonder if they're just not playing any Zatalpas. I kind of like that idea. Just not playing the cards you can't cast. Even though the Indestructible on Zatalpa is certainly pretty good. They're going to crash. So we're at 10. We're effectively at 8 with the Deathrite Shaman in play. Let's see what we can get here. Sirac. Can we Sirac and Galta this turn? We have 6 mana. Yeah, we can. We sure can. All right. Looks like that's what we're doing. Wait a sec. Undo that, undo that. We want to pay these two. And that one. The huge downside to doing it like this is they could like kill something in response here before we cast the Galta. Although I think we still could have just floated the mana and cast it. Yeah, we would have been fine. They would need to have killed like 2 things, which would have been really difficult with 2 mana. So this is turn 4, Sirac and Galta. This is about as good as our draws get. And we're going to give Galta haste, I think. So they can block it with Gifted Aetherborn. But they stand to still take a ton of damage. Even so. That's they take 7 from that. Plus they're probably chump blocking one of these. Yeah, they have to chump block one of those. Pretty decent turn 4 here for our Simic Stompy. Stomp, 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 stompy deck. I mean, Stompy just makes so much sense as a moniker with this card's art as well. It just looks like he's stomping around. Get in there, friends. They lose if they block Lovestruck Beast here with the Gifted Aetherborn. So they can't. I think they are priced into blocking Galta and then chumping Lovestruck Beast with Deathrite Shaman. Now, the fact that they have Questing Beast in their hand means with the activation of Deathrite Shaman, they do have 8 damage next turn. They're just not going to block. Really? Do they have a Noxious Grasp? Oh. They're just scooping. Weird. Okay. They weren't just dead. So if they blocked Galta, Galta was trampling over for 9, but they were gaining 2. So they would take 7 total. And then they could have chumped the Lovestruck Beast with the Deathrite Shaman and shot us with the Collective Brutality. And then if they drew a land and had, I guess, oh, they showed their hand. It was nothing. Yeah. Okay. They were playing the Zertalpas, though. Interesting. Okay. So that was round 4. We are 3-1 here with Simic Stompy. We lost the mirror match to a little bit of misplay against Ronus, but also just having a slightly weaker hand in game 1, or not slightly weaker, but much weaker hand in game 1. So, oops, I'm trying to sit up straighter here. Yeah, we're going into round 5. Hopefully we can win this next one. All right. Hello and welcome to round 5. We are 3-1 right now with Simic Stompy, looking to stomp out our last round opponent, and we are not keeping this hand. Soft Stub into Petty Theft into Brazen Borrower is not the worst curve, but they're very unlikely to cast a turn 1 non-creature spell that we care about, and very unlikely to have a turn 2 like permanent we care too much about, and this is not really what this deck is trying to do. We're trying to have an elf on turn 1 and a 5/5 on turn 2. So let's mulligan that hand. This is exactly what we're looking for, and we're just going to bottom the second Once Upon a Time. Because the second Once Upon a Time it's not that good. The first one's great. It's free. Second one is fine. Like, you're fine to top deck a Once Upon a Time on turn 5 or whatever and find something good. But yeah, Sirac is fantastic. We'll take that. We'll take Sirac. Play this Forest and this Elf. We have a great curve right now. No interaction for our opponent, so hopefully they don't have some sort of really fast combo deck here. Red. Slashing down our elf. Fair enough. But we do have the lands here, so we're going to be able to still cast Yorvo on turn 3. Hopefully they don't have Mizium Mortars or Lava Coil for our Yorvo, because then on the following turn we're going to be attacking for 10. Eidolon. All right. Can dig it. Looks like they're a heavy burn version of burn with Inspiring Vantage, meaning Boros Charm. Not sure what else the white is for, but I know they're playing Boros Charm. Maybe Chain to the Rocks. Yeah, I've seen actually Chain to the Rocks out of the sideboards of these Boros burn decks. Chain to the Rock's quite good against us. We may want to bring in Reclamation Sage in this matchup, regardless, because it kills Eidolon and potential Smuggler's Copters, but also it gets rid of those pesky Chain to the Rocks. They're going to come crashing in, and I'm not going to block. Although they might have wanted this because they wanted to cast Light Up the Stage. But blocking there just is a bit too risky. Another Eidolon. Alright. They know that we're about to cast a 4-drop that has haste. But that's alright. And we are coming in here. Our opponent missed their land drop, and is going to be taking damage from their own spells here. So we're just going to be coming in for 10. And they're pretty incentivized actually to chump block. They kind of lock themselves under their own Eidolon here. Double Eidolon. And the only cards we really want to draw at this point are like Stubborn Denials and like Galta, Questing Beast. I guess any beefy dude would be great. Ronus. Steel Leaf Champion was really good. Yeah, so any of those cards, it's just really unlikely that they can kill us here. Yeah, they're gonna chump block because they kind of have to. If they just let that go in, they go to 8, and then each spell they cast costs them 4 life. So it puts them in a really bad spot. This is generally how it goes against the red decks if they have a slow start, and we have a decent hand, is we can just play these 5 power, 4 toughness things, 5 toughness things, and it's very difficult for them to interact with creatures that big in useful ways, at least. Like efficiently at all. They have to generally double spell to kill any of our creatures. Looks like they're going to double chump here probably. Or maybe they'll double block Sirach. Fine with that too. Yeah, I'm fine with double block on Sirach. Then we just cast 3 elves and our Yorvo's an 8/8. Seems great for us. Yeah. Opponent very far behind at the moment, and it's only going to get worse. Now we can cast all our spells with impunity here. No more Eidolons on the board. Let's get that 8/8 going. And 3 little 1/1s. And we'll go ahead and pass the turn. That's on you, friend. What have you got? They found their 3rd land. Goblin Chain Whirler is very good here. It's chump blocking next turn, but it's very good. Kills all our elves. They're just going to scoop it up. All right. So we're up a game here against Boros Burn. It looks like it's, very heavily slanted towards red, as most Boros Burn decks are. Scavenging Ooze and Feed the Clan are certainly coming in. And then as far as Rexage, we don't know that they're playing more than the 4 Eidolons as far as enchantments or artifacts, but it's very likely that they have Chain to the Rocks that they're bringing in. I guess Brazen Borrower deals with Chain to the Rocks pretty well too. Stubborn Denial. So maybe we don't care too much. Sleep is good when we're on the play potentially, but certainly don't want that card on the draw. We are more of the control deck in this matchup. Honestly, they're a very aggressive burn spell deck, so we need to survive their early onslaught, and Sleep certainly doesn't really do that. Although it can turn the corner. Obviously, it can turn the corner. Copter is very bad in these very aggressive matchups, so we're going to cut those. And then we don't have a ton of time to mess around with Once Upon a Time, so I'm thinking about trimming on that as well. We've got Ronus, who can't block or attack if we don't have another 4-power creature, but the Indestructible on Ronus is also really nice. I'm going to cut Ronus and a Once Upon a Time. Yeah. Don't want to cut any of the Galtas because 12/12s are good against burn decks generally. This hand's not really doing anything. I mean, we do have a Once Upon a Time, so if we top deck like a 3-drop and then the Once Upon a Time finds us an elf or the other way around, it's fine, but it's just too many lands. I just don't really like it. I'm going to keep this one, and I think I'm going to bottom the Questing Beast, because they're unlikely to be able to kill these 2 Lovestruck beasts, and that means on turn 5 we get to play a Galta, most likely. And I think turn 5 Galta with the 2 1-drops, that'll just keep the ground from getting too bad. Just keep us from dying, really, is going to be good enough. But we could be very wrong about that. They might have the Chain of the Rocks. They might have Lightning Axe or something. I really doubt that they'll have Lightning Axe. Soulscar Mage is a way that they can kill 5/5s with multiple spells, or with just like us blocking and then Soulscar burning our creatures. Once Upon a Time was a great draw. See if we can find an elf. We did not find an elf. I suppose just a 3rd Lovestruck Beast instead of Sirach. Sirach, we'd need another land for. Bottoming Feed the Clan is obviously not great for us here. Yeah, let me set up $1. I think just another Lovestruck Beast. We'll just take all the Lovestruck Beasts. Seems pretty good here. It's 2 bodies. It's 5/5. I think they're pretty amazing in this matchup. So we'll just take a 3rd Lovestruck Beast. So if our opponent has Eidolon, that's pretty annoying, because we really want to cast all these Heart's Desires for 1/1s, and the 1/1s that deal us 2 damage. Certainly not great in this matchup. They don't have Eidolon, so that's nice. But they do have a lot of prowess creatures. And we're taking 3 here. So yeah, they have like pretty much their best possible start, if their hand is full of more, or not more, but Wild Slashes and just otherwise 1-mana instants and sorceries. They only have 2 cards left in their hand, but if those are both Wild Slashes or something, we are certainly not in a great spot. But we're just going to play this Forest and cast 2 more Heart's Desires. Yeah, no attacks here. We're going to potentially be chumping, depending on how good their turn is. Pre-combat. We could chump. I don't love that idea, but I don't hate it either. Like, not giving them light up the stage for 1 mana is a pretty big deal here. Their deck generally is playing 19-ish lands, which means they certainly want to cast a 1-mana draw too. Pretty interested in chumping, honestly. Just making sure that they can't cast Light Up the Stage for cheap. And then next turn we start playing these 5/5s, and they're going to have to figure out ways to deal with all these 5/5s that we're just going to play every turn for the next 3 turns. And then probably a Galta after they can't deal with the second or third one. Lava Runner, all right. They might not have even had a spell. Very potential that we could have just like eaten one of their dudes with a double block, but very low chance that that was the case. And I just wanted to prevent them from casting Light Up the Stage. Our opponent taking a good amount of time to make a move here. Understandable. They're in a kind of a weird spot. We're still at 17, and we have a 5/5 on the board. Interesting. Not attacking with Soulscar Mage. I'm gonna block the Lava Runner because this way they could have Lightning Strike and we don't lose to the Lava Runner. If they have Lightning Strike and we block a Swift Spear, then they're just gonna eat our Lovestruck Beast. But if they're not attacking with Soulscar Mage, it might just not be the case that they have the Lightning Strike, and maybe I could have banked on that. They did have the Shock, though. The Wild Slash. So paying 2 life to cast a Mystic here doesn't seem worth it. Going to 9 just to get an elf into play. It's generally going to save us another 2 life next turn because we can chump something with it. So maybe it is worth it, but they're more of just a burn deck. Like their last card might just be Boros Charm. They might just Boros Charm us right now, and then we're at 5, and then I don't know, they might have some other direct damage for the next couple turns and just get us dead. So it's definitely risky to play the Breeding Pool untapped for the Mystic. I'm gonna do it. I didn't think it was worth it at first, but considering that our elf can just chump block the other one and we can block the other 2 with the Lovestruck Beast, I think it makes sense because it's generally going to save us 2 life. We could even have attacked with Lovestruck Beast. Especially with paying the 2 life for Breeding Pool there, I'm not interested in attacking. We are definitely not the aggro currently, even though our opponent's getting low on resources. Still draw 1 card a turn, and that 1 card could be pretty good. We're looking to slam this Galta next turn. Could potentially play both Galta and Lovestruck Beast. And it looks like we are going to be able to do that. Another upside to playing the elf last turn is being able to do this. And now we can probably make an attack, but they have 4 attackers, we have 4 blockers. I'm just going to pass. Yeah, these red decks definitely don't want to see 3 Lovestruck Beasts and a Galta on the other side of the board, especially not this early in the game. So I think we're very, very likely to win this game here. Obviously, a ton of creatures with a lot of toughness is going to be difficult for them. Ton of creatures, ton of toughness. Good combination against red decks. Oh no.
That's not impacted anything. Taking everything out.
Oh. Alright, so we're definitely attacking with Galta here. I'm just not sure if we're attacking with anything else. I suppose we could make attacks with 2 Lovestruck Beasts and Galta. That's a little risky though. Then we'll play an Elf and a new Galta. And still have 4 blockers for their 4 creatures. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to bring in 2 Beasts and the Galta. They have to make some blocks here. And we're still going to have 4 blockers for their 4 creatures. So it's a little bit bold. Like, we certainly don't have to make this attack. But if their 2 cards are both Boros Charms, then we're actually in some trouble here. We do need to close the game out at some point. And you just have to figure out like what you could lose to. And in this case, we could lose to multiple Boros Charms and like another burn spell, which is very possible for them to have over the course of this turn and the next 2 or the next one. Like if they have Boros Charm Shock right now and top deck of Boros Charm, we lose. So we need to win the game before that happens. Gotta win before we lose. Just, really good Magic tip for everybody out there in YouTube world and TCGplayer world. Win before you lose. It'll work out really well for you. I promise. Win before you lose. All right, it's all on the table here for you, opponent. Can you kill me? Wizard's Lightning, targeting me probably. All right, we're at 6. You got a Boros Charm? No. It's possible they can kill us from 6 here with 2 cards. 2 more Wizard's Lightnings. I think they would have cast the second one, but who knows? Maybe we're dead. So especially when I'm explaining things on a video here, I do play a little bit slower, and generally my clock is a bit lower than my opponent's. Ooh, are they going to beat us now? But our opponent is taking a really long time. They're 7 minutes lower than us on the clock. Playing a mono red burn deck. Huh? You could be dead. You have 3 more damage, or don't you? Show me the lightning bolt. The Wizard's Lightning. Lightning Bolt's not in the format. Okay, they just scooped. So we got there. 4-1. Really good result. We lost the mirror, but otherwise did very well. Let's take a look at the deck. So, all right. Welcome everybody to the post-league deck tech. This is Simic Stompy. This is what we just ran through a Magic Online Pioneer League. We went 4-1. It felt really good. We lost the mirror match, but we pretty handily took down Blue-Red Phoenix, Jeskai Ascendancy combo, Soul Flare, and Mono Red. Or, I mean, actually it was Boros Burn, but a red burn deck. The idea of the deck is that we start out with an Elvish Mystic or Llanowar Elves. We're playing 4 of each, and then you play a turn 2, 3 mana beefy boy. We've got Lovestruck Beast, we've got Steel Leaf Champion, and we've got 1 copy of Ronus and 1 copy of Yorvo. These are legendaries, so we don't want to play too many. And then we've got a couple more legendaries at our 4-drop slot, which we want to cast on turn 3. 2 Questing Beasts, which are great against Fog, great against Planeswalkers, great against creatures that have power 2 or less, and in general, just a sweet, hasty boy. And then we've got Sirac, the Hunt Caller, who's generally also haste, since we have so many other beefy boys, that Sirac is generally going to be able to get in there the turn you cast it. Generally turn 3 with all these mana dorks and Once Upon a Times to find our mana dorks, or our beef if we already have the mana dork. And then the finisher is, you guessed it, Galta Primal Hunger. Stomp, stomp, stompity stomp. This guy gets the job done. So what generally the curve is here is we go Once Upon a Time, find an elf, play the elf, turn 2 Lovestruck Beast, or Steel Leaf, or Yorvo, or Ronus. Turn 3 Sirac. Sirac gets out there, gets haste. We attack for 10. On turn 4, you drop a Galta for 2 mana. Give it haste with Sirac. Get in there for about 11 billion on turn 4. That's kind of the idea of the deck. And the interaction that we get from this out of this deck is Stubborn Denial and Brazen Borrower. Now, the cool thing about Brazen Borrower is it's a bounce spell. It's also a 3/1 flash flyer, and it also is findable with Once Upon a Time. So it's kind of doing everything we want. It also gives our deck an alternate win condition of flyers. We have 3 Smuggler's Copters and 3 Brazen Borrowers, which can beat down in the air. And with the help of a Hashep Oasis or 2, they can really deal a lot of damage themselves. Also, you can give your Brazen Borrower haste with Sirac. Kind of cool. Give your Smuggler's Copter haste with Sirac. Kind of cool. Stubborn Denial being a 1 mana negate is pretty great. You're often going to have hands where you go Elf into Lovestruck Beast, and then on turn 3 you'll go Steel Leaf Champion, hold up Stubborn Denial, and the game's basically over at that point. Like, they can try and kill your Lovestruck Beast or your Steel Leaf Champion. You Stubborn Denial, that removal spell. They are so far behind that it's going to be very, very difficult for them to catch up. Now, the Smuggler's Copters may look a little weird, but we actually have 12 1-mana 1/1s in the deck. If you count Lovestruck Beast, Heart's Desire is create a 1/1 white human creature token, and 8 mana dorks. So a lot of ways to crew the copter for basically nothing, because these elves kind of lose their value into the mid game, and we can turn those elves into haste 3/3 flyers into the mid game, which are fantastic. Obviously, like, if your elf is a haste 3/3 flyer, you're pretty happy with that elf. Another way we can beef up our 1/1s in the late game is Ronus. So Ronus is something I was trying out in this league, and it felt pretty good. We only drew it once or twice during that whole league, but definitely felt pretty solid. It might even warrant more copies. It's very good in the mirror match. We lost to a Ronus in the mirror match. We attacked into it with a Galta, and I forgot that it had Death Touch. So this guy has Death Touch and Indestructible. Pretty good combo of keywords to have, and also obviously almost always going to be a 5/5 creature that can attack and block in our deck, because we have just so many 4-power creatures or greater. And then let's look at the sideboard here. We've got 3 Life Crafters Bestiaries. These are going to be for the grindy decks, the control decks. You're going to bring in Life Crafters Bestiary like Sultai, blue-white control, those types of decks. Bring this card in, draw some extra cards off all your creatures, scry every turn, make sure you don't draw that 16th elf that you really didn't need on turn 12 or whatever. You can bottom that elf, find that Sirach, get him dead, find that questing beast, get him dead. So this is pretty good. It's like our own, like our green Thassa, basically. We're scrying and drawing cards off our stuff. It doesn't attack like Thassa does, but it's pretty strong. That's going to be great in the grindy matchups. Sleep is for the creature decks, like you're playing against Hardened Scales, you're playing in the Mirror, you're playing humans, you're playing spirits, you're playing against red-green aggro dudes that are like slightly beefier. Then Sleep's great. We're going to bring that in, and it's basically Wrath of God. And just, it's one-sided Wrath, right? It's like Plague Wind. So you tap down all their dudes, you attack with 12/12s, they die. Generally, yeah, it's just going to end the game when you cast Sleep. Scavenging Ooze for the Blue-Red Phoenix matchup, for Soul Flayer, for any deck that's trying to abuse the graveyard, Kethis combo, Jeskai Ascendancy with a bunch of treasure cruises we brought this in against. Reclamation Sage we've also got here. We're going to bring in against any deck with artifacts and enchantments. Artifacts and enchantments we don't like Smuggler's Copter, Heart of Kirin, Jeskai Ascendancy, Wilderness Reclamation. The list goes on. Bring those Rec Sages in. You can cast them on turn 2 off these elves and really just set your opponent back a bit. Nice little 2-for-1. Feed the Clan for the red decks. It generally is going to gain us 10 life, which is going to be a big deal. It's generally worth like 2 or 3 of their cards to gain 10 life. So you basically are like drawing 2 or 3 cards when you cast this. And generally we only need that 1 turn of tempo where they try to go for it. We go gain 10 life, and then we win on the swing back. So that's kind of the idea of Feed the Clan. And then Veil of Summer, great against Thoughtseize decks, great against just black removal decks and blue counter magic decks. You're going to bring it in against Control. Definitely bring it in against Sultai. We brought it in against Soul Flayer in that league to great effect, where we countered a Collective Brutality, just like smashed their Collective Brutality that they cast and discarded a card to try and look at our hand as well, and just like 3-for-1 them, 4-for-1 them with Veil of Summer. No, I guess 3-for-1 because we drew a card and they lost 2 cards. Yeah, pretty sick. So yeah, Veil of Summer, really powerful effect. Also, you're going to bring in Scavenging Ooze against burn decks. I forgot to mention that the first time, but yeah, it gains you life. It's beefy. You're going to trade off in the early game. Some of your elves are going to die, and the Scavenging Ooze is easily going to be a 5/5 and gain you 3 life. But that's the deck. It's very powerful. Something I didn't talk about yet was the lack of Oko in this deck. So Oko currently costs around 60 ticks online. I don't have 60 ticks to spend on Oko at the moment, so I didn't try them out. But if you have some extra ticks lying around, you could certainly swap out the Smuggler's Copters for Okos, and probably the deck gets a little bit stronger. It gives you a new avenue of attack, and it also gives you just a way to deal with problem permanents from your opponent, problem creatures outside of Brazen Borrower, which is definitely a welcome addition to the deck. I did love the Smuggler's Copters, though. They do play very well with the Elvish Mystics and the Lovestruck Beast, and just kind of giving all your creatures haste as the game goes on is pretty nice. And also filtering your draws, finding that sleep in the creature matchups, finding that Stubborn Denial for the control decks, having a creature that doesn't die to Supreme Verdict or Doomblade, or I mean dies to Doomblade, but doesn't die to Supreme Verdict, or any like sorcery speed board wipe like Languish. It's nice to have a few of those in your deck, but certainly wouldn't mind these all being Okos. So if you're wondering why there's no Oko, it's really just a price thing for me here. But remember, you can pick up all these cards for super cheap on TCGplayer.com right here, right above me on this website. So check those out. Thanks for hanging out. This has been a really fun Pioneer with Poncelet. Catch you next time.